Rohit, I've been talking to a lot of female friends of mine, and they seem to be quite upset when their men are not interested in committing, that their men are not interested in monogamy with them. And they shame these men. They feel like these men are players, that they're being ugly, animalistic, or just selfish to continue to play the field. And I'm curious what you think about this and how we reconcile what is the appropriate standards for dating. Is serial monogamy it?
Well, this thing of serial monogamy has been really irking me, I have to say. I have to say that it has been really feeling very um, almost disingenuous, something that is not feel doesn't feel real. It feels very fake. And because I see in it um, certain things that really bother me, and I want to bring those up because what I find is this. I find in here a certain game being played out, a game that um, is almost reminiscent of the idea of courting, the idea of the prince who's going to come and sweep the woman off her feet. And I think we've all bought into this stupid notion of the knight in shining armor who's going to come and he's going to be gallant and who's going to be chivalrous and he's going to, not that there's anything wrong per se in that, but when you buy into a particular model and then you let that set up your life, it can set up a lot of problems. So what I see happening is the woman expects that, the man plays into the game. They've both heard the stories as they were growing up, Snow White, Cinderella, the whole bit. Now here they are in the game of life, and they are playing out that ideal. The man is trying to be the best that he can be. He's trying to show her how cool he is, how successful he is. He's trying to show her his best face. She's trying to show him her best face. And looking at best faces doesn't show you the real person. That is not a great model by which to be able to relate to somebody. But the whole dating process is about showing someone your best face first to start with.
Well, it seems hard for women though. They seem to feel like it's hard to tell if a man is really serious about them or not. If is he really loving them or is he just there for the sex? And then they sort of women I see tend to try to push each other like, hey, you deserve better than that. You deserve to be treated like a princess.
Right.
And if he's not treating you like a princess, then he doesn't really love you, and it's not a good relationship. Get out of there.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell women. Is if the guy is treating you like a princess, 9 out of 10 times he is either a wimp who doesn't have any self-esteem, or he's out to have sex with you. And he knows the name of the game, he knows how to get you to bed, and he is playing into exactly what you're saying. He can do it like a charm. There are some of them who can, the more charming they can be, the more they can play the game you're thinking of, the more that's all they want. So what you're doing is you've set up the stage, they're playing the game, and now you go down to this place of hating them. They're only playing the game that you've asked them to play.
So you're saying if the man is challenging you instead, if your man is challenging you instead, that's a more real relationship, right?
Yes, a person who's willing to be more authentic, a person who's willing to show you, his weak side, who's willing to be vulnerable with you. There you're talking something real, where you're willing to be vulnerable and real with that person, not where you're putting on your, best outfit and you're putting on your best face and he's putting on his best, he's charming you, he's being the whole, knight in shining, he's being this great gallant guy,
You don't want to conform to these archetypes.
You're playing into an archetype, absolutely, and a fairy tale archetype. I mean, it's not even real. Get over it.
Now, there are a lot of women who have self-esteem issues, and they really want to support each other in having higher expectations. Like, no, that man is just using you for sex. Do not continue dating that guy because he really doesn't respect you. He's just there. He's just placating you to get you in bed because he likes the casual sex relationship. How do these men deal with their low self-esteem and trying to, I mean, this seems to be a reaction to that low self-esteem. Like, I need to be treated like a princess, not just a fuck buddy.
So the truth is both sides have low self-esteem. The man has low self-esteem, so he's willing to play any game that he needs to so that he can, by winning you over, by seducing you, by getting you to bed, he's placating his low self-esteem. That's coming from a place of low self-esteem. A man who has high self-esteem doesn't play games with you. He's not interested in it. And you're going to say, oh, well, I have no chemistry with that guy. What you're calling chemistry is low self-esteem. And as far as the women doing the same thing, I want a better guy. Why do you want a better, this more flashy, more prince-like, gallant guy? What is he? He's just a band-aid for your low self-esteem. So really speaking, we're playing two low self-esteem games. We're trying to validate each other. We're trying to show each other how great we are. That's because we don't believe we're great. But if we do believe that, when you believe you're great, you don't need someone to validate it and to make it, and just to, show you that. No. So what this does actually, Andrew, is it sets people up for failure and heartbreak. On one hand, we are trying to find the ideal mate. When we do find somebody who fits our bill of criteria, we put them on a pedestal. This is our ideal mate. Invariably, we find out the truth. They were out to use us. Now, we demonize them. We throw them off their pedestal, we break up with them, and then we call all men evil or all men bastards or whatever the hell it is. Men start doing the same thing. They start seeing women as controlling. They start seeing women as manipulative. And then they decide, okay, if they're going to manipulate me, well, I'm going to manipulate back. Right? So we're setting up this game. And then what starts to happen with the women, or the men for that matter, is we set our ideals even higher. We start creating even more perfectionistic kind of models with which the person has to be like this and like that and like that. So now the man's not willing to commit anymore because he's got even a higher ideals of what you should be, and the woman's got even higher ideals of what he should be. And this is an unending game. So what's happening then is loneliness, sadness, people having sex just for no reason at all. I mean, the point is that it's taking us completely off the deep end from real relating, which is where we need to go.
Now, so what is the ideal I mean, what kind of expectations should people be holding out for, or not, not necessarily crafting them in a mental way, but just what kind of relationship are you advocating?
See, first and foremost, I'm advocating a relationship of honesty. So what has happened in the earlier model, it is a model, serial monogamy is a model of dishonesty, of fake people wearing masks, and ultimately the masks coming off and the demons being revealed. Okay? What I'm advocating is that we need to develop authentic relationships, vulnerable relationships with no masks. We need to bare our hearts, our souls, our bodies, and accept each other the way we are. Ultimately, the search for love needs to move in the direction of unconditional love and not a conditional love which is all about how can I use you? Who's the guy who's going to give me the best house, the best car, the picket fence? Who's the woman who's going to look most sexy on my arm, and is going to be my eye candy or trophy? No, this is bullshit.
Ego. That's all ego and
absolutely ego driven. But
and defense, security mindedness.
Pardon?
Security mindedness too. They want security, so it's
absolutely.
Like, how do I create something that's going to last?
Exactly.
You knew if it was going to
love
last.
Is not necessarily going to last. Let's start with that. Let's start with the fact that everybody wants to feel good, everybody wants pleasure, everybody wants sex, everybody, these things are normal. Let's not start with hang-ups about this stuff. Yes, men want to sleep with you. Get over it. I really feel, you've made too much out of that. It's become a whole defense mechanism. Man wants to sleep with you, say, talk to me. Show me who you really are. Show me how deep you can go. Show me what's really inside you. I'm not just interested in tell him what you want and have a real relationship. And in that real relationship, if you can love this man or this woman for who they really are, warts and all. Now, people begin on a good footing. Just 1 second. Usually people will arrive at this stage after the honeymoon, and after they've been together, married for a year or 6 months or whatever it is, they'll then begin to see the warts and all. By which time it's too late. They've gone from idealization of the person to complete negation, where they start to see all the faults now, and then the whole thing crumbles. If we would start from a place of revealing, from a place of deep honesty and integrity, we would start the whole game on a different foundation, and we would love each other for who we are. We would jump straight, much more quickly into unconditional love. Sexuality would definitely be part of it, but it wouldn't be the game or the aim of it.
No, pardon me, Rohit. People do have mental hopes for creating something in the real world, having a house, having a family. Women have a timeline on this. They need to nest. They need, their instincts also driving them to want to build a family,
Yes.
and they are getting very nervous about men serially dating them. Just like, oh well, I'm not really ready for that. They want to practice for building what they want to build. If they're not doing something that's getting them closer to that goal, then they don't want anything to do with it because it's a waste of their time.
Mm.
So how do
Well,
we deal with that? I mean, isn't serial monogamy training, at the very least, training us to be good at partnerships with one person at a time? Or and then isn't it getting us closer, perhaps, if we keep on dating people who are closer to our approximation of the right, a good mate? Aren't we getting closer by doing serial monogamy to eventually getting that goal of the nuclear family?
it seems to be a really distorted way to get there from all that I'm seeing around me. It's a model that is absolutely failing. I mean, there are a few cases where they finally get married. Out of all the people you're dating, you look at all the websites from Match.com to whatever, you look at all the people who are out there dating, how much, what percentage of people that they date do they actually end up marrying and having that relationship with? A very tiny percentage. Out of let's say 100 people they've dated, maybe one person will finally end up being the one that they end up getting married. Now they're working on 100 to 1. And when you're working with that kind of ratio, um, you're going to talk about 100 disappointments, 100 people that you slept with who you thought you would marry, 100 broken hearts. You're talking about, something that's just, wow, is this really the best we can do? Is this, with all our sophisticated knowledge of psychology and spirituality, is this all we can come up with? I don't think so. I think that what it's each time we're doing that, we are creating a myth of the ideal person. We're getting it smashed. Our hearts are getting harder. We're getting more closed, as a result of which it becomes harder to fall in love with anybody after that. Our innocence is being lost. We're becoming more and more shut down. Our expectations are getting higher and higher. It's not working. So what's the solution, you're saying? The solution really is, let's first and foremost stop creating illusions. Let's stop creating idealizations. All right? Number one. Number two, let's accept who we're talking about. Men, if you're talking about men, are very highly sexual animals. If you don't like people who are sexual animals, don't hang out with men. Don't try to get a man into your life. But that's what they are. Take it or leave it. Right? Three, women do want to nest. They do want to set up a home. They want certain things. Men, if you're going to date a woman, we know that. That's what she wants. I think it's really important for people to say, this is what I want. I know what you want. You want sex, you want pleasure. This is what I want. Let's read it out. Let's find out, whether we are compatible for what I need and for what you need, and then we'll decide. I mean, you could take, if what you're looking for is to achieve a goal, approach it not from a romantic idealism, approach it from a practical viewpoint. Be like a business person going into a project, trying to get certain goals met. Romantic idealism is wonderful for people who don't have goals. But for people who have goals, it's a heartbreaker. It's something devastating every time you walk into it.
So, so Rohit, there are a lot of women, particularly women who are getting into their 30s, who are getting eager to get the man that they want so that they can start their family. And you got a lot of men, particularly in their 30s, who aren't necessarily quote unquote ready to start a family, be it financially or psychologically or whatnot. They're not there, and women are sort of discouraged that these men don't have labels on them that say I'm not ready.
Yeah.
That would be so much easier. They would just stop wasting time with the with the relationships and building all these projections and hopes into what this man might be,
Right.
and just move on to the men who are actually ready to build a nest with them.
Yes. So put that in the foreground is what I would tell women. Put your goal in the foreground. Don't play a game of romance and love and then hope that he finally gets married to you. No. Do it the other way around. Put this out there. Start from your objective. If someone is willing to meet you on your objective, has got similar goals, has got similar stuff, go from there. Don't necessarily sleep with him. Or if you do, just so that you can see what it feels like. Don't set up expectations of romance before your goals are aligned. First, so if I was trying to look for a business partner, I would look for someone who was on the same page of where I am, right? Who would contribute to my business project, who would work. We're talking of a project here. The project being, I want to find a mating partner, someone who's going to be a good dad for my kids, who's going to love me, who's going to, take care of me, provide me the security I need, etc., etc. You are talking about a set of expectations. You're talking about very clear set of needs. You're talking about a set of goals, right? This has to be aligned first. Put the romance stuff later. Really, you put the romance first, you're not going to see your goals. You're going to get, led around in a completely different way. So for people like me who are not looking for someone to get married to and live happily ever after, we can afford the luxury of just being romantically blissed out. Okay? Because that's not what we're looking for. I'm straight up front. That's not my goal.
But women and men are both kind of trained. They've both done the romantic journey so many times. They think that's what it has to be, and they want that to be part of their partnership. They want that romance there, and so they think the romance needs to
Don't have
precede
the
any sort
romance.
of partnership arrangements or discussion.
I'm not saying I don't have the romance. I'm simply saying, in terms of hierarchy and priority and where you're putting your focus, put your focus on your agenda and put your romance second. Where what you're doing is you're putting your romance first and you're talking about your agenda later. That's not happening. The romance is happening, the fun is happening, and then the guy is moving on because he's not aligned with your agenda. He's not into your agenda. He's just into having fun.
So
Right?
basically,
Put your agenda first, let there be total alignment at that level, and then bring in the romance after that. This is the traditional model. It's been around for a long time. This is how people did it. They made sure, this is across the world. If you look at traditional cultures, they put the agenda first. They were clear about their agenda. Right now, we're deceptive about our agenda. All right, we pretend to have the agenda. Make sure the agenda is clear, make sure the communication is clear, make sure all that is clear, that the romance come in later. That's my take on it.
and
Do
when
it
you meet somebody you're
around.
very carnally attracted to, and you feel like there may be a romantic thing that should happen, but your goals don't line up right now.
Well, you know what? When you want to do the carnal thing, when you want to do the romance thing, do the romance thing and leave your agenda aside. Because romance and love don't come with an agenda. That's where you're getting it all mixed up. Love does not come with the agenda of marriage. It comes with the agenda of love. It doesn't come with an agenda of commitment. It comes with an agenda of wow. It's a high state. It's actually a spiritual path. And it has very little to do with agendas. Spiritual paths and agendas don't necessarily align themselves. The spiritual path is about this ecstatic experience that these two beings are going to have when they connect with each other. It's about the high that's going to occur when they melt their hearts and their bodies into each other, the state of oneness they're going to achieve. Will that necessarily lead into satisfying your agenda? Not necessarily. The guy you're having hot sex with isn't necessarily the best husband, isn't necessarily the best father. All right? The guy who you fall in love with the most isn't necessarily going to be the guy who will be your life partner. So I'm just saying, don't mix these two things up. You
Yeah.
know, we're wanting everything. True, we're a society that says, I want it all. You know what? Great, good for you. And maybe you will get it. Maybe you'll be one of those few people who gets the great romance and gets the great husband as well. But for most people, the debris is huge. The fallout is massive. And what we're seeing around us is just a lot of broken hearts. And not fun. It's not fun to see that. It's sad.
So are men who are not monogamous are, they get a lot of flack for being players, um, for wasting time.
Yeah.
Um, is that a very one-sided judgment, one-sided impression, or are these people who are in their 20s or whatever age you are, people who are playing around with love, as long as they're honest that they're not interested in building something, which of course is a really tricky thing because a lot of people seem like they're not interested in building something. Suddenly they find the right person. They're like, okay, I think I want to build now. So there seems to be hard to judge where somebody's at, where you are at even.
Right.
Um,
It's true. Nobody can judge. People don't know. Now, the fact of the matter is that for all the women that date a guy, that'll be one somewhere down the line. But for the most part, he's 99% a player. And 1% he's the one, just if it so happens. But by nature, you've got to understand that men like variety. And if they can only have it one person at a time, well, they'll have it one person at a time. You know, we're basically going against human nature a lot. And when we start to understand human nature and accept human nature, we can play with it a lot better. There does come a time in a man's life when he wants to have kids, when he wants to have a family, when he wants all those things that a woman wants. It usually comes a lot later. And it's getting later and later now. I mean,
right.
for me, in my 20s, I wanted it. I was 25 or something when I first wanted, I was thinking, I want to get married. So it depends on where the man is at.
So let's say you're a woman in your 30s and you don't want to waste any more time. You want to get to what you want because you're afraid you might not get there. So you just zero in on that goal. Does that mean you do not date anybody who is not ready who is not like openly saying, yes, I'm interested in building something with somebody?
What I said earlier was be practical. Don't try to be romantic. Don't lead with your heart. Be practical, right? Have your criteria for what you want to. Now look at it as a practical
Right.
objective.
Now,
And
what if this woman's gone like 2 years without having any lovers, and they're still not finding somebody who's a good fit?
I mean, you can have lovers. You can have all the lovers you want. Just don't confuse them for being husbands. Don't get
Aha!
romantically attached. All right. For the women who are on that agenda, have your lovers, have fun, enjoy them.
But don't build projections on that lover as being
Yes,
marriage
as a
material.
potential mate or a person who's going to be with you forever and be the husband for you and the father of your children. Don't project that on him. Just have your lovers, have your fun on the side, and keep looking for the one. And when you do meet men, screen them for their potential. How deeply are they into having children? How deeply are they into marriage? How deeply are they in what level of commitment, what their visions are, what their goal is? Look at all of that and relate on the basis of that.
Of the
Build
shared
on the
goal.
basis of that.
Right.
Let the romance occur in time around that. But that being the foundation, that's the reason why you've got together. It's up front, it's right in front of their face. You don't want it, walk. But for the women, but if someone is not onto that agenda, let's also face that possibility. There are women who don't have that agenda, who don't necessarily looking at getting married. They're not, so they're either realize that they don't want it in their 30s or they're in their 40s and they don't necessarily, they've been through that already. In which case, the whole thing is entirely different. Then lead with romance. Then keep your agendas out the door and just allow it to go as far as it goes. If you can keep your agenda out the door, it is likely to carry on. Now, what might happen is you'll be with a guy 3, 4, 5, 10 years. He's still not willing to get married. That's another part of the problem.
So a lot of women seem to have trouble, or they think they have a lot of trouble with this romance without the partnership expectations. Is that true? Are women biologically wired to need love and sex to lead to partnership, or is that more of a fallacy that we've just built into our patterns?
I think it's very deeply socially programmed. Yes, it's true that there is a need for safety, security, particularly to raise a family, right? Particularly because women weren't socialized to think that they're going to carry the entire burden and responsibility of their life on their own shoulders, that they're going to have someone to share it with. Now, men, we're not socialized in that way. We're socialized when I never think, for example, that, oh, I'm going to find a woman who's going to take care of me. You know, I, I wasn't socialized to think that way. And so I don't look for a woman who's going to financially take care of me, who's going to support me. Or now, although women have won the battle and have become very financially independent, deep down in the psyche, there's still that thought that I will meet someone and then I can rest. I can put my feet up. I can be pampered. I can be just taken care of. It will be such a great feeling. So there is a deep amount of socializing, whether it's to raise a family or whether it's just, okay, now I can rest. Damn, I've been working hard all my life. But as men, we weren't socialized that way. So you realize then that it is about social programming and what we've been told to expect and not expect.
So when you're looking for figuring out yourself and someone who would be a good partner for you, is serial monogamy a good way to practice, or might casual dating be possibly more productive?
Give me some examples.
Well, let me just give you my perspective that it has taken me a long time to sort of crack out of what I considered to my life to be of serial monogamy, where I just, like, oh, well, now I've got another girlfriend because the romance was great. And I date somebody for 4 months or 6 months or 2 years or whatever it is. I just, try out hats. I try on a relationship and see how it feels. And I learn a lot in that process, but ultimately, like you said, 1 out of 100 is going to work out, and I haven't reached 100 yet, so I haven't gotten to that. I haven't reached a point at which I'm like, wow, this is the one. I need to marry this one. Is that productive to spend 6 months, per partner, or would it be more productive to be casually dating? And I'm not saying having sex with all of them, although that's up to you and your safety standards, and frankly, I suggest people being very pragmatic about sexual safety, but isn't it possibly more productive to be casually dating 3 people at a time in order to figure out more about your personality fit? Like, how do I relate with this person? When I go on hikes with this person, when I go on a road trip with this person, how do I relate to them? You're getting more accomplished, potentially.
Falls apart. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so sorry. Please complete what you were saying.
Well, I was just saying that this casual dating may maximize your experience, may maximize not the depth of your experience, but the variety of different partners that you're sampling, rather than spending 6 months on each one separately and then needing a defragmentation period before you move on to another. Possibly, not getting too deep with anybody, but casually meeting lots of people would be a more productive path.
If you look at it that, it's going to take 1 in 100, and then that 1 in 100 itself may or may not work out. But if those are the kind of numbers we're looking at, we go through a lot of different dates and a lot of different people before we finally have, okay, if it's not 1 in 100, it's 1 in 50. If it's not 1 in 50, it's 1 in 25. Whatever that number is, I'm not, I'm just trying to say that it's 1 out of so many. You might as well do your so many at one time, or at least 3, whatever you can handle, 2, 3, 4 at the same time, and then you'll get to your goal a lot faster. Whereas if you do 1 at a time, you'll take forever to get to your goal, and yes, then you will start feeling the pressures of your biological clock ticking and all that kind of stuff happening. If you see these as part of a screening process, then you might as well be screening simultaneously. If you looked at companies hiring somebody, they don't just interview one person, and after putting out the ad and doing the interview and doing the whole bit, and then finally say, this one's not it. Okay, let's start the ads all over again. After 3 months of their selection process, or 2 months, whatever it is. They don't start all over again.
Way to get the position filled.
Yeah. They have a bunch of people, then they narrow them down, and then they narrow them down still further, and they keep going until they find the one. That's the model as far as selection is concerned. No, not saying that one that they select in the company is going to be the one who's going to be ultimately the best fit, but They have a process by which they go about it. And I think for dating, you've got to follow a similar process. If you're looking for someone who you have that level of intensity or romance or chemistry or whatever, dating multiple people at the same time, you're likely to get to that faster. Another thing, where there is a monogamous situation, when a man feels he's got you, all right, he gets lazy, he gets inept. But when he feels there's competition around, when he knows there's other guys also seeing you, he's got to be always at his best. So it keeps him really. However, will that sustain when you get married? Probably not. But it will definitely bring out the best in each guy, and you will get to see the best in each of them. Because they're not going to be lazy there. But on the other hand, one could argue it the other way around. Set it up as serially monogamous, he will fall into his lazy patterns, and you'll eventually get to eliminate him. But you know what? It's a slow, tedious process and a really heartbreaking process. Whereas if you're seeing 3, 4 guys at the same time, chances are, if one of them isn't it, you're not going to be heartbroken. This one didn't work out. There's still 2 or 3 others that you're dating.
So these players, these men who
Women,
aren't committal.
okay, how's that?
What?
I think women should be players too. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Because like you said, it's potentially more productive. You're getting a lot more accomplished at once. You're not interviewing just one person at a time for 3 months.
Yeah.
You're interviewing multiple applicants at once.
That's right.
So
Isn't that what men are doing in the first place? I mean, outside of the fact that they're horny and outside of the fact that they are, that they like variety, but if you look at what's actually happening, they are basically, use that same metaphor, interviewing multiple partners until they find one where they feel there's a real
this is what I think is the interesting emotional difference is that when women find out that a man they've been seeing before they've declared any monogamy status, that the man they've been seeing has also been seeing other women, they get kind of upset and judgmental sometimes. Whereas in the inverse, if the woman is still seeing other men, the man feels like, oh well, that means I need to be more assertive to tell her I want to date you exclusively.
Right.
That's the it's like if she's seeing other people, then it means that I have to step up. If the man's seeing other people, it means he's a jerk. I mean, that's sometimes how the impression that I get, but
right. Right.
we're all trying to be proactive. We're trying to be productive because we don't know that the person right there is as beautiful as they may be, is the real fit for us. Is that really the fit? I don't know. I love her, but I'm not sure she loves me.
Everybody's wearing a mask. Sorry, just complete that, please.
But I was just going to say that basically, you may be very attracted to the other person. You may think that there's a lot of potential for the match, but you need to see it reciprocally. You're not going to cash out the rest of your hand until you're pretty confident that this is possibly going somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I also feel that basically everyone's wearing masks, both the men and the women, and those masks need to fall off, and then you'll really be able to evaluate. So usually that's the process that's occurring, is that it is over that period of time that they're seeing each other when the masks begin to fall off and the real person is revealed, and then that's sort of the place which is the turning point. So women think only the men are wearing the mask, but the women are also wearing a mask. And it's important to be honest and true with oneself, that we're both wearing masks. The reason it takes a little time is because the masks need to fall off. And once the masks fall off and we see each other for who we really are, we may like each other or not. The woman might be pretty, but what's behind the prettiness? So for the man, that's what he's got to figure out. So what if if she's pretty, that's great, wonderful. He'll enjoy sex with her, he'll enjoy hanging out with her, but will she be good as a life partner? He doesn't know. When he starts to see her in her upsets, when he starts to see her in her anger, when he starts to see, can he deal with it? Does he have the ability? Can he handle that? Maybe he can. So he decides to walk out.
So the title is often handed to men that they are players or man whores, and women are often referred to as sluts when they date multiple people and are sexually active. But aren't these people actually given that they're being safe and not spreading a bunch of STDs around, aren't they actually being very proactive in their life choices.
I think we need to get over the shaming around these words, whore, slut, man whore, or woman slut, whatever, whatever. Get over it. We are sexual beings. We were born that way. We were created that way. We will always be that way. And I think we need to get over the shaming around this crap so that we can get real about ourselves. We can engage in we can own our sexuality and not no longer let people shame us for it, either as men or as women. You know, it's important for us to get past this thing because this is what is then allowing us. This is what creates the bonding between men and women. If this was not there, the bonding would not exist. You'd be buddies, you'd be friends, but you wouldn't become life partners, right? Think
Right.
about it. The
Right.
people you're not having sex with, they're your friends. They're not your lovers. They're not your life partners. They're not the ones you marry. They're not. Sex is that factor that brings you all together. So let's not shame it. Let's honor it. Let's make it that special thing that it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Right? Um, Once we get past the shaming of that, we can now begin to look at the agendas. Men and their agendas, which are really about getting behind the surface of the woman, and women and their agendas to see the seriousness of the man. If he just after sex, all right, let me just give him the sex, now let's see what he really wants. Is he really going to be there? Once he's got sex, is he really going to hang around? So once you begin to see what's going on inside each other's minds, then you have a choice. You can either placate that desire, get past the mask, and begin to see the real person. Or you can do what I was saying in the beginning, which is just come straight forward with your desire. This is what I want, right? Are you willing to play at this level or not? And then do your romance stuff later. It's just different approaches to it. There's benefit in doing it the way we're doing it as well. It's just own the whore in you, own the stud in you, own the slut,
I
and
hear a
then
lot of
use
people.
that. Yeah.
I hear a lot of people say that actions speak louder than words,
Mhm.
and which is true. But I would listen to the words too, because the words also mean something.
I think people tell you where they're at right up front. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
You got to be listening. You
And
know,
their actions may be very loving, but if they say, I'm not interested in building anything right now, that's probably a good indication that they're being honest.
absolutely hear that, and it'll be told to you very early in the game. Hear it, because otherwise you're going to go down this garden path that says, well, maybe I'll be the one to change his mind. Maybe he'll change. You know, crap.
We'll
No,
wait.
nobody changes because of you. People change because of themselves.
Yeah, it's great. Rohit, thank you so much. It's been an illuminating conversation.
It's been a pleasure.